everyone, and welcome to March. Welcome to the end of your Monday, the first Monday in March. Thanks so much for joining me. I am Ashley Graham. I'm the Chief Investigator here at KSLA News 12. I don't have a long episode for you here of Arclatex Uncovered, but with so much going on with the Shreveport water situation, we've been covering it all day. I just wanted to hop on here and give a little bit of context to some of the things that we're covering. So thank you so much for being here, especially if you clicked over from our push alerts, and I hope this is helpful. So what I do normally before and after, at the beginning and end of every episode, I like to put up the slate for if you have any questions for the KSLA News 12 investigative team. And so here is our email address. It is ksla-investigative-team@graymedia.com. This will go to myself as well as the rest of our managers so that they're aware of things that that people want us to talk about, to look into, to investigate, to uncover, things like that. So feel free to send any of your ideas our way or any questions. If you are more of a social media user, that is totally fine. If you'd rather reach out to us on one of our one of our social media pages here at KSLA News 12, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, even. However you like to DM us, that is totally fine too. Just make sure that you're designating somewhere in your message or putting somewhere in your message that you want to talk to the KSLA investigators. That will allow us to get to you much more quickly. So, yeah, it's been the talk of the town here in Shreveport, the water transmission main break that happened on Saturday night going into Sunday morning, and we've been covering all of the mayor, the water department, all of their updates throughout the day here on Monday. We know that this is going to be a multi-day effort to get things at least temporarily fixed so that our water pressure goes back to normal, and for a more permanent fix to come later on as well. So I wanted to show you a bit of our coverage, and not just from today, but from the last, I would say, year or so. I think my unofficial beat here in the KSLA newsroom has become talking about water, and it's not to beat down on any particular entity or agency or anything like that. It's just to kind of give context of how we got to where we are. So first, I'm going to switch over to our Mac Mini display and bring you guys over in just a second. So now you're looking at our Mac Mini, and I wanted to show you first this most recent article that we put together today, Shreveport Water System under a state order to fix infrastructure deficiencies as the city grapples with the transmission main break. So this was based on a administrative order from the Louisiana Department of Health that we covered last year. And I got a copy of the report, which I've got pulled up, I believe, in this article. If not, then I will find it for you. But we first, here it is. Don't know why it's not linking to it. But anyway, so back in 2025, I got a copy of this administrative order from LDH, which basically was them writing to Shreveport and saying, hey, these repairs need to happen in order for the water system to be brought into compliance. And so we detailed a little bit of that in our 6 o'clock show today, talking about what those specific fixes were. A lot of repairing and replacing. We talked about the elevated water towers that need to be repaired and replaced, which the city is working on that one by one. We talked about how they need to add backup power sources for some of our water pump stations throughout the city in the event of a power outage, a natural disaster, things of that nature. The last thing you want is to lose pressure as a result of losing power to your pump station. So the city has also been working on that, and I'll explain how we know that the city is working on that as well. And we talked about lots and lots of pipe replacements, getting rid of corrosion, things like that from the parts of the infrastructure here in our area. So basically that is where back in 2025 the state was saying you have X amount of days and X amount of time to put these together. And if you go back to our 6 o'clock live stream of our 6 o'clock show, early on in the show, I'm at the touch screen and I'm explaining what some of the not demands, but what some of the requirements were. And Shreveport has, I remember talking to the then director of the Water Sewage Department. They have been working on this kind of infrastructure change for years. And the types of changes that LDH was asking them to make were also going to take years. So, this is none of these repairs were going to be a very slow process. I'll give you an example just off the cuff of the elevated water towers that you've seen around town. Those kinds of repairs that basically need to take the water towers out of commission, they cannot happen all at once. We would all lose pressure for a long time if they tried to replace each one together. So at the time when I spoke with the then director of the program or of the agency, they said they will basically have to take one water tower offline at a time during the off-season months, so not the peak months, and basically try to get the repairs done before peak season starts again. So once it gets colder, that's when they will really wanted to do more of their repairs to one tower at a time, and then hopefully year over year you would have better infrastructure, better paint, better access to water that has not touched any sort of corrosion, things like that. So that was just one example of some of the things that they are coordinating with LDH and basically saying, we have a timeline, we just need time, essentially. And money, of course, and we'll get into the money part in a second. So I'm going to take us back over to the Mac Mini. And another thing that we wanted to touch on, because a lot of people were asking, well, when are we going to see more repairs? And during the mayor's press conferences, both today, this morning, as well as his like virtual update on Facebook this afternoon, he talked about how the city has already approved tens of millions of dollars in order to fix several parts of the infrastructure in Shreveport. That was approved through a election on a bond that was approved back in 2024. So when he said that this afternoon, I got thinking, so where do those projects stand, things like that. And long story short, I found my way to the Clean Water Shreveport website, which I'll show you what it is right here. And this is essentially a multi-year program. This is their partnership with or trying to comply with the EPA as well as the Department of Environmental Quality to make sure the water and water infrastructure and sewage infrastructure is sound on our website. So one thing that I find interesting every single time is reports. So I love being able to look at reports and see, okay, where are things happening? How quickly are they happening? What's the progress report? And Clean Water Shreveport actually does have this on their website. So I went and looked today. They have progress reports going back to 2020, twice a year it looks like. And so I found the most recent one from fall 2025, so November, and I want to show it to you. So, and this is also on our website as well. We have it linked in this article that was just published today under my byline. So yes, you can see the entire report, but I'm just going to scroll through here so you guys can see. And like any report, it starts out with a overall letter from the mayor. We have a letter from the interim director, and then it gets into some of the more specific projects. So, for example, this port tank water storage tower, as of November 2025, was approximately 80% complete, which is helping with, according to the report, it's helping with sustained pressures at the port as well as for Southeast Shreveport. We get into other projects like the generators on 70th and Pines. We talked about how LDH is saying they need backup standby power just in case for their pump stations. So this is one of those pump stations at 70th and Pines that now has a functionally complete water pump system backup generator as of November of last year. And we also get into disinfection of the wastewater. So this was one of the projects that they highlighted where there were 2 different wastewater treatment plants that now have updated UV disinfection systems, or at least they will by the end of basically this first quarter. So hopefully very soon. So we're going to be looking forward to another report from Clean Water Shreveport in May with an update. So another thing I love seeing is the stages of when each program or when each project is approved, or in the works, just so we can give people a better idea of how long these things might take. So, for example, right here on page 8 of the report, and again, this is on our website, You can see that there is a valve replacement program, very similar to the valve that we are now dealing with, that transmission main break. That one is 42 inches that we're dealing with right now, that's causing the low pressure right now. But the city has earmarked roughly $4 million to replace and repair the piping and valves on a 24-inch transmission main at the same water plant, so upgrading some of the same infrastructure. That portion of the project is considered in planning, versus these projects that are down below, that are in design. And you can see in the in design area, you've got another replacement of the transmission line from the waste treatment or water treatment plant to the distribution system, another $4 million. And each project here has their project cost estimate listed. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more to where you see shovel ready. And these have completed planning, they've completed design, they have permits, they can start construction as soon as they get funding or notice to proceed. So you still see a couple of projects right here. As of last November, I do not see any that are for transmission mains, but I do see the replacement of a Huron Street water main that's like an 8-inch diameter. So smaller diameters than what we're dealing with this current water transmission main break, but still progress. And we go down to where these things are in construction right now. So we've got the rehab of the storage tanks, the elevated water tanks. There are the three that we've been talking about for months now on West Shreveport, Linwood, and 70th and Pines. We've got Ford Street water improvements, water main being relocated for $3.8 million. We've got another elevated storage tank being rehabbed for about $2 million, and a water main extension on Mayo Road that is happening for about $1 million. So these are projects that are, according to the city, under construction. And then we have another section for just wastewater projects in planning. So the short version is that things are in the works, but it's just a matter of what's coming first, what's coming next, and then also the timeline for all of these. I did reach out to the city earlier today to ask, because the mayor mentioned in his afternoon presser that there are 3 projects related to transmission lines, or the transmission main lines, and that there should be 3 projects underway to the tune of about $14 million that should be kicking off this year. So as soon as he said that, I reached out to the public information officer for the water department, and I said, hey, can you clarify which 3 projects, and just a sense of like where they're at this point. So we've got that in the works. I've also sent public records requests to several agencies, just trying to get a sense of when this, in writing, when this current break that we're dealing with was first spotted, getting a sense of the timeline there so I can give you a better idea of what's been going on, and where we go from here. So we know it's going to be a very frustrating situation. I know that a lot of people are trying to navigate this in terms of how they get their water. If they don't have boiled water, where can they get it? I'm going to pull up the Mac Mini one more time just so I can show you our latest coverage on that. Let me give you that one more time. So going over back to our website, going to the news tab, Louisiana. Let's see, $100 million overhaul. Let me go back, because I want to be able to say, like, okay, here's what their recommendations are. So this should be our most comprehensive one. Let's see. This gets into the how and the why, and in the meantime, here's what they're asking people to do. There is a voluntary boil advisory right now for the entire city of Shreveport water system, so not just for one portion. As we said yesterday at the time, or on Sunday, they said that there was only a portion of the water system under a voluntary boil notice. And someone on TikTok actually asked me, what is the difference between a voluntary and a mandatory boil water advisory or a boil water notice, essentially. So what we know right now is that there was not a confirmed contaminant in the water. We just know that water pressure dipped, and as a result, the water pressure dip triggers a voluntary boil water advisory. Now, if there was a known contaminant or a confirmed contaminant, according to LDH, that's where we would get a boil water notice, and that would be more mandatory. So at this point, the city is asking people to try to delay those tasks that, use a lot of water, your laundry, your watering of your lawns, things that take a lot of water. They're saying if you're going to do anything that does require a lot of water, maybe you want to fill your bathtub so you can flush your toilets or things like that. They're asking people to do that at a off-peak time of the day, so maybe in the middle of the day if you can, or if you can do it at night after the early evening, which we're pretty much past that now. So they're just asking people to kind of use water in those off-peak times. We know that tomorrow, Tuesday, the majority of Caddo Parish schools are going to be doing virtual learning again as they try to address the water pressure issues. There's a short list of schools on screen right now that, let me move the mouse, that have in-person instruction tomorrow. That would be Blanchard Elementary, Mooringsport Elementary, North Caddo Elementary and Middle, Herndon Magnet, Donnie Bickham Middle School, Northwood High, and North Caddo High School. You guys are in person, but everybody else is virtual within the Caddo Parish system. And we will, give you guys the first alert as we get new updates. Obviously, we live in the community too, and we are also dealing with water pressure issues. We even have like measures that we're taking here at the station in case we lose pressure. So we're in this together, and I just want to let you guys know that there's more digging to be done and that we are doing the digging for sure, because there's so many questions about how the water infrastructure issues got to the point where they are and where we go from here. So stay tuned, stay ready for the first alert. And as always, I want to close out the episode with our contact information for the KSLA Investigates team. That would be KSLA-investigative team at graymedia.com if you'd like to email us. And of course, if you want to reach out to us via social media, that is totally fine. Just say, hey, I'm looking for the KSLA investigators. I'll get right back to you as soon as I can. And I want to say I appreciate you for tuning in and clicking on that push alert if you saw it. And we will see you again next week, hopefully. There were so many other topics that I was going to cover for this particular episode, even as of this morning, but there's just so much that we had to get to today in terms of water. So hopefully we can get back on our regular schedule, and I can show you a little bit more of some of the things I have in the works. So until next time, have a great rest of your week, and as always, feel free to reach out, and don't be a stranger.